Can a voice born in poverty ever reach the world? Can a song, carried only by the wind and the sound of falling rain, find its way to hearts far beyond the slums of a forgotten village? In the coastal province of Leyte, where the air smells of salt and old wood, a small boy sang beneath a leaking roof. His name was Dio Cruz, only 12 years old, as thin as a bamboo pole, his eyes deep with a quiet sadness that felt far older than his years. The night was heavy with rain, soft at first, then hot enough to drown the noise of hunger in their small home. The roof dripped endlessly, with buckets lined up like broken soldiers. His mother, Lisa, sat beside a dim kerosene lamp, mending a torn school uniform. Her fingers trembled, her eyes tired but kind. Dio didn't sing for applause. He sang because silence hurt too much. He sang to fill the cracks in their life, the nights when rice was only a dream, when the sea refused to give fish, when hope seemed too expensive to keep. Each note carried the ache of the waves, the whisper of their struggles, and the hidden strength of his mother's prayers. Outside, neighbors paused to listen. Even the rain seemed to quiet down, as if to let the boy's voice speak. Somewhere nearby, a young fisherman held up an old phone and began to record. He didn't plan to share it. He just wanted to keep that voice, that moment, as proof that beauty could live even in hardship. Inside the hut, Dio finished his song, tears clinging to his lashes. His voice cracked on the final note, not from weakness, but from truth. In that fragile sound, the universe seemed to pause. And though neither Dio nor his mother knew it yet, that one trembling song beneath the rain was about to cross oceans and change their lives forever. The morning after the rain, the village woke to sunlight that glimmered over puddles like melted glass. The air smelled of salt and smoke, and life returned to its simple rhythm. Dio helped his mother wash their clothes by the well, his laughter soft, his eyes bright with the joy of small things. To him, it was just another day. To the world, it was the day everything began to change. A few miles away, in a small internet cafe, the young man who had filmed Dio's song uploaded the video to social media. The title was simple: "Poor Boy Sings in the Rain." He didn't expect anything. But the internet has a way of carrying truth further than the wind. Within hours, strangers began to share it. A nurse in Dubai, missing her homeland, whispered, "I feel home again." Soon, a student in California, scrolling between deadlines, stopped, listened, and shared it too. The video leapt from island to island, country to country, carried by emotion alone. No microphone, no stage, no lights. Dio, meanwhile, continued his simple life, unaware that people from across the world were hearing his heart in song. He still helped his mother sell rice cakes near the pier, still chased the waves when work was done. But beyond the sea, unseen eyes were watching. A retired music teacher in Manila, Mateo Ramos, paused mid-coffee, unable to stop replaying the video. Something in the boy's voice reached deep into the quiet corners of his soul. In that moment, across time zones and oceans, one heart called out to another. The song had traveled farther than anyone could have imagined, carrying with it a whisper of destiny. Days passed quietly after the storm, but the world outside their small village began to move in ways Dio could never imagine. Messages poured into the online world news agencies, musicians, and strangers searching for the boy with the trembling voice. His song had become a river of emotion flowing across continents. To him, life was the same, waking at dawn, helping his mother at the market, and singing softly as he carried baskets of fish. Then, one humid afternoon, a knock echoed on the wooden door of their hut. Outside stood an elderly man, his shirt neatly pressed, a weathered guitar slung over his shoulder. His eyes were calm, yet heavy with stories untold. His name was Mateo Ramos. Years ago, he had been a music teacher in the city, training young voices for grand stages. But after his wife's passing, the melody of his own life had fallen silent. He retired, closed his piano, and tried to forget. Until, one night, he heard a voice that shattered his quiet world. That voice belonged to Dio. Now, standing at the door, Mateo introduced himself softly. He had traveled far, crossing ferries and long roads, carrying only his guitar and a letter of invitation from a music foundation in Manila. He wanted to meet the boy who had reminded him what music truly meant. Liza's eyes glistened. She didn't understand why a man from the city would come for her son. But when she looked at Mateo's gentle face, she saw sincerity, not pity. Mateo knelt before him, smiled faintly, and placed his hand over his heart. No words, just gratitude. In that small moment, under the dim light of their humble home, something sacred passed between them, a spark of faith. Weeks turned into months, and the world around Dio began to change. Mateo stayed in the village for a while, teaching him beneath the mango tree near the shore. There, the sound of the sea became their orchestra. Each morning, Dio's voice grew stronger, clearer, more alive. He learned not just to sing, but to feel, to breathe, to believe. Liza watched from afar, her heart torn between pride and fear. Her boy, once just a dreamer beneath a broken roof, now stood on the edge of something vast. She often whispered prayers into the night, asking that the world be kind to him. Then, one morning, the letter arrived. Mateo had secretly submitted Dio's name, along with the video that had captured millions. The organizers wanted him to perform live. Liza trembled as she read the invitation. The city felt like another universe, loud, distant, unforgiving. But when she looked at her son, she saw the same spark she once carried in her youth. Before poverty had quieted her dreams, she nodded through tears. "Go," her heart whispered. Days later, Dio stood backstage in a grand auditorium in Manila. The stage lights burned like tiny suns. The crowd was a sea of faces. He wore a simple white shirt and borrowed pants, his shoes still carrying dust from his village road. When his name was called, he stepped forward slowly. He closed his eyes, took a breath, and remembered the sound of the rain, the roof leaking, his mother sewing, the night his heart first spoke through music. Then he sang. The melody rose higher, carrying years of struggle, faith, and love. The audience fell silent. Some wept openly, holding hands, unable to explain what they felt. Even the judges, polished, poised, lowered their eyes. They weren't listening to a contestant. They were witnessing truth. But this time, the tears in his eyes were not of sorrow. They were of freedom. And when the hall erupted in applause, it wasn't just victory. It was the sound of a dream finally finding its wings. Years passed. The trophies, the applause, the storm of attention, all these became stepping stones, not destinations. What mattered most was the voice inside him that whispered, "Share what you've been given." When Dio returned to his village, the air smelled different. Not of despair, but of beginnings. People smiled more easily now, as if hope had taken root in the soil itself. He had saved much of what he earned. But instead of building a grand house, Dio built something else, a small music school beside the sea. Its walls were simple, its instruments secondhand, but its spirit was golden. Dio taught them how to breathe with their hearts, how to find courage in silence, and how to sing for the truth within themselves. Liza sat often beneath the same mango tree where it had all begun, listening. Her son's voice, now calm and strong, filled the air. Mateo visited sometimes, his eyes shining with pride. He had found in Dio not just a student, but the legacy of everything he'd once lost.